Mark Rogers TV talking college football, and a huge one in the ACC coming up this week with Florida State and Miami going at it. Huge rivals, and of course we need to talk to Cam Underwood from the State of the U on the SB Nation platform for the Canes to talk this one up. So Cam, of course, thanks so much for joining us. I expected this to be a matchup of undefeated teams, very flawed but still undefeated teams, but you tripped up against Cincinnati. I did not see that one coming, so I'd love to know what happened.
Yeah, well, as always, thanks for having me. And I don't think that many of us saw that one actually happening. We talked last week about Cincinnati starting a redshirt freshman quarterback who I know was a record setter in his first game action the previous week against Memphis and all those kind of things. But, maybe I had a little bit too much faith in the coaching staff. But they had 11 days to prepare for this game. We didn't play since the Nebraska game. Was our last game, which was a couple weeks ago. So we had an off week, and then we didn't play till Thursday. So 11 full days to prepare. Everybody's healthy. Well, Stacey Coley was not. He got injured, so he was held out. But, and then obviously Marcus Gayo, if you missed that, he had a neck injury in practice and was airlifted to the hospital. He's fine. He's in a neck brace and everything, but he'll be okay. But, outside of two players, with their injury issues, everybody was healthy. Everybody, was working hard, and all the reports were, practice was going well and all these kind of things. And we come out and then lay an egg, really. And all of the things that had been plaguing this team came to bear at one time. So the first drive, marching down the field, and then you get a holding penalty by Sonny Adogwu to kill that drive. We settled for 3 and had been talking about the previous week how we left all those points on the field against Nebraska. First drive of the game, you leave 4 points on the field because it should have been a touchdown, had a touchdown called back. Had another touchdown called back on a punt return. That was the softest holding call I've ever seen. The guy was blocking the guy, and then the defender stopped running. Not that he was being held or anything, but he was just like, oh, I'm not going to get to this play as Cornelder returned it for a touchdown, which would have tied the game in the fourth quarter, mind you. And then they called the soft holding call. So, that's another 7 points off the board. And there's all kinds of things. Third down last week, 4 for 17 or 18, I want to say. So even lower than our 24% conversion rate leading into the game. We were 126th out of 127 going into this week. I have not checked the stats yet to see if Kent State passed us, but we're either next to last or last nationally in converting third downs. You're not going to be able to sustain drives like that. You're not going to be able to have points like that. And all these things, it was just trouble on top of trouble on top of trouble. Obviously, in the first half, gave up a couple of big plays. The first drive of the game, Rayshawn Jenkins wraps up the running back coming up the middle and stops and lets him go, but the whistle didn't blow. So the kid right up the middle, touchdown. Next drive, Jaquan Johnson, freshman, who actually got called for that holding penalty, which wasn't holding. He closes down his lane too far on the punt return. Receiver jukes, goes around, has a 70-yard return. Now they have a 20-yard field on the second drive of the game. Like that is 14-0, and then we're falling from behind. Missing Deion Bush for the first half because of his targeting penalty against Nebraska. Also missing Jamal Carter for the first half for the same reason. It was just an uphill battle, and we just never really got set. The offensive line is pretty bad, just honestly. We can't run the ball with power. We can't pass protect because Brad Kaya was under duress the whole time. And this week was the first time in Brad Kaya's career that he went without a touchdown pass, the first time in his 17 games. So that streak ends as tied for the third longest in Miami history. And then hopefully this week we start a new one. But, I've been talking for 3 or 4 minutes, and every time that I have a new sentence, it's a new thing that went wrong. And that just was the story of the night. And Cincinnati played with a lot of emotion, and they were okay, but, we played pretty poorly. And, when you do that on the road against a team with any kind of talent, you're going to end up with the result that we had.
Now, through 4 games for Florida State, we would not in any way confuse this team with the one that went to the national championship game and won it in 2013. They're flawed on offense, especially. Dalvin Cook really had to bail them out a couple of weeks ago against South Florida. They were getting beaten at just about every level by South Florida. Dalvin Cook completely changed that game with like 4 or 5 amazing runs. They've got a veteran quarterback. I think they're thin along the offensive front, and that seems to be where it's breaking down. So you have an opportunity as we start to match these two teams up to make this Florida State offense look bad again, because Wake Forest just did it on Saturday.
Yeah, there is that opportunity there. Like you said, Florida State is not the juggernaut that they were in 2013. And I know that, Florida State fans who click over to our site, they're going to look at this and say, well, you're not the juggernaut you were in 2001. You're right. True. We're not. So we're even on that. But, it is Florida State is definitely a team where the talent level and production level has come down, and our talent level has stayed the same, and I want to say that the production is raised slightly, but obviously after last week and then the Nebraska game and the first half of the FAU game, I'm not really sure about how far we've come on the production side, but the gap is closed, and this is a vulnerable team. Everett Golson is not a great quarterback. He is a veteran quarterback, but that doesn't really make him special. I was reading Tomahawk Nation because, obviously you need to know a little bit about your opponents to, be well versed. And, I've seen Bud Elliott, their editorial director, writing, tweeting and things. If Everett Golson is the guy for them, then he needs to run the ball. And that means Jimbo Fisher needs to call quarterback runs or design some things in there. And he has not done that to this point. So if you try to make Everett Golson a pocket quarterback, then you're not getting what you thought. You're not getting that transfer. You're not using all of his ability to the best of your abilities. So, maybe they include that, and that helps them out a little bit. Maybe they're going to have to this week because Dalvin Cook left last night's game with an injury. There's a couple other injured running backs. So you're basically down to a true freshman in Jaquez Patrick out of Orlando. Now, he's a big running back. He's 6'2", 230. He was fast. He ran for like 5,000 yards in high school. Very talented player. But you don't have a Dalvin Cook. You don't even have Jonathan Vickers anymore. Mario Pender is in the hospital because he had a collapsed lung. So obviously wish him well because that's a life thing. That's not even a sport thing. But, if you have all those guys injured and you're down to a freshman, maybe have Vickers back. So you have one, maybe two guys, but Dalvin Cook up in the air for this game. That obviously changes even the dynamic of the Florida State offense that we were talking about.
So is the defensive approach as simple as loading up the box and stopping the run, even though they've lost all that talent at running back, and forcing Golson to beat you through the air?
That has to be part of it. Obviously, the defensive backs are a strength of the Miami Hurricanes roster this year. Corn Elder's playing really well. Yeah, I know that he gave up a pass in the fourth quarter that led to the final touchdown for Cincinnati, but he's been playing lights out, and every defensive back gets beat sometimes. So I'm not saying that he's a perfect player, but he's really good. Tracy Howard has been steady this year. Artie Burns has 3 interceptions. Rayshawn Jenkins has 3 or 4 interceptions. Deion Bush is the singular leader in the defensive backfield, so he needs to play more. You also have Jamal Carter, who's back. He's a physical kid. He's not as good as Deion Bush or Rayshawn Jenkins, say, but he's definitely a rotation kind of guy. So you have those 5 or 6 guys in the defensive backfield that you can really take some chances up front, and that's what's going to have to happen. And you saw it in the first half of the game last year against Florida State. If you play safe, if you play not to lose, then you're going to lose. You have to take some chances. It's going up against Mike Tyson in 1990. You have to try to knock them out, because if you try to win on points, then they're going to kill you. So you have to take some chances. So that means loading the box. That means blitzing from up front. Mark D'Onofrio, the defensive coordinator, is really good at dialing up corner blitzes. Corn Elder is really, really good as a blitzer. He already has a sack this year. So being multifaceted, being variegated, doing different things and taking chances, getting up the field, penetrating, all those things, all that's going to have to, be in the game plan this week. And especially if they're missing Dalvin Cook and they're down to, their 3rd or 4th string guys, especially because, Pender's in the hospital or recovering from his medical issue, you got to go at them. And you got to make Everett Golson prove that he can sit there and throw the ball to beat you.
Cam Underwood from the State of the U. Let's flip it to the other side. Brad Kai is really good, but it seems like they would be well-versed to do the same in loading up against the run, because the pass protection isn't what it is or should be. So do you have to max protect? What do you need to do to protect Brad Kaya? Because he's got to throw and make big plays in the passing game.
Yeah, Kaya does need to throw and make big plays in the passing game, and he has the ability to do that when given time. And that has not been the case recently. Like I said against FAU, remember I said he hit a pass to Joe Yearby when the defender was pulling him back. Everybody's like, no, just hit that pass. Pass protecting that well. So we were able to mask that against FAU. We were able to overcome that against Nebraska, where he got the ball out quick, and Nebraska's front seven wasn't as dominant as Cincinnati's was, which is crazy for me to say. So those things, yes, we do need pass protection. How do we increase that, or how do we improve that? Al Golden talked about the fact that Joe Brown, a redshirt freshman, is pushing for playing time at guard, and that Casey McDermott, Shane McDermott's younger brother, who was a 5-star recruit, is pushing for time at tackle. So maybe switching up, or shuffling the decks, as it were, maybe switching up the rotations, maybe changing that front five so we have a new group up there. That can be one of the things that we do. Like you said, we're going to have to max protect, or we're going to have to keep in a tight end or a running back to try to chip a defensive lineman or be an added person in the protection scheme. Now, where that hurts is obviously you would like to have as many options available for Kaya as pass receivers, but if you can't protect him to throw the ball, then that kind of inhibits his ability to be a successful passer. So we haven't run much with, or we haven't been in many formations with a fullback, with two backs in the backfield. Maybe you have to go to that where you're in the shotgun with two backs and three wides, as opposed to one back and four wide, to try to add that person in. Maybe you have the tight end in line more, because our tight ends have been split in the slot way more than they've been in line this year. So maybe you bring them back in line with the line right next to the tackle, and then that's another person right there. So by doing that, if you bring in the fullback, you bring in the tight end, that's another two guys. So now you have a 7-man protection scheme. Maybe those are, and then if you could keep the running back, and also Joe Yearby is pretty good at blitz pickup, even though he's not a huge running back. Mark Walton also pretty good in that. Now you have an 8-man protection scheme with 3 guys in the routes. So at times that might be something that we have to do, but leaving the offensive line alone and saying these 5 guys, whether it's the 5 who have been playing, or if we sub in Brown or McDermott, and saying you 5 need to block these 4 or these 3, which they were not able to do against Cincinnati. Cincinnati got 2 sacks with a 3-man rush and 8-man coverage. And like hot knife through butter, like just, a hurricane through paper. And that was not what we need. So I don't know if it's more of leaving the tight end in, more of the play calls. Maybe we do, run fake right, bootleg left, or something like that. But we have to do a lot of different things. Switch up the rotations, maybe move the launch point for Kaya by rolling him out or moving him a little bit to try to help him and help the pass protection be more successful.
Okay. Hurricane through paper. Got that. Never heard that one before.
I just made that one up. I thought it sounded good.
I like that one. Very fitting. So, of course, there was a time when these two teams got together on a regular basis, on a yearly basis, and battled as top 5 teams. And this was the most important rivalry in the country from a national perspective. That's no longer the case, but it's still enormous. And it's enormous for fighting for recruiting base. And there was a video that we did at one point, Cam, when you very much outlined in a very, very specific way the depth of the recruiting and the talent in Florida from top to bottom, and certainly around Miami. So what does this mean to not only winning this game for the ACC and beyond, but setting the stage for being in a positive position and a position of power down the road?
Yeah, that's a great lead-in. Obviously, South Florida, where I live and where the University of Miami is the richest recruiting ground of anywhere in the country. And this is talking about players going to college and also players in the NFL. There was an article that came out a couple weeks ago. The hometowns for the most NFL players, Miami is number 1. Fort Lauderdale was number 2, which is the right next door majoring city, with just astronomical numbers. Compared to any other locale. You're talking about Dallas, you're talking about Houston, you're talking about Los Angeles. Just the numbers are huge. So from South Florida alone, you have 50 or 60 or 70 guys in the NFL, and you extrapolate that out even more in the world of college football who are top players. So obviously the recruiting matters. And this is a game where you have this rivalry, you have this showcase of 2 ACC teams. I would say 2 top ACC teams, but really you have Florida State, and then Miami is not at the top of the ACC right now, but obviously matters. Last year we had pretty much all of our big recruits came in for the Florida State game last year. We had national recruits coming in from California, a couple from Texas, a lot from around the state of Florida. Miami still has recruiting sanctions based on the NCAA investigation years ago, so we can only give players 1 ticket to a game. And this includes underclassmen players who last year were juniors or sophomores or freshmen, So you have that interaction also. A lot of those tickets went out for the Florida State game. That exact same thing is going to happen this year up at Florida State. They don't have the recruiting restrictions where they can only give a player one ticket. But if you can only make it to one Florida State game, say you're from the Naples area and you're a decent recruit and you're a sophomore and you want to go to a Florida State game, you're going to find a way to make this game the one that you go to. So I clicked over and I'm looking at 24/7 Sports, the Florida State site, and the list of visitors that they have for this week going up to Florida State is incredible. Let me see. Right off the top of my brain, I'm counting. There's something like 50 or 60 guys who are listed. They have 4 basketball players on their official visits, 4 stars and 5 stars all. I mean, you have 20 or 30 4-star and 5-star football recruits. You have a bunch of guys coming on their officials. You have 2 5-star defensive backs for this year. You have more 5 stars for subsequent years, like legacy recruits Stanford Samuels and Asante Samuel Jr. and Patrick Surtain and Al Blades Jr. Going up there. You have, top national recruit Malik Henry, the Florida State quarterback recruit. You have Amir Rasul, who's a running back recruit out of South Florida. Obviously, and Al Blades being the son of Al Blades, rest his soul, who was a previous Miami Hurricanes player. So, you have a lot of guys, and this game is a showcase. This game is a thing that, I mean, you have to bring it. And I don't know what it is that all the players are looking at, but obviously a strong performance will go a long way. Obviously a win would go an even longer way. And I talked about this last time we spoke that, hey, maybe if we go in there and win, which I know is looking less likely now than it did the last time that we spoke. But if we go into Tallahassee, we go into Doak Campbell Stadium and we win, maybe some of these recruits, and I know that there's going to be way more than I already listed who are there. It's going to be 200 or 300 recruits. Like, it's going to be massive. But some of those recruits, we win, we play strong, we stay together, all those kind of things. They look across the side to the other sideline. They say, hey, man, maybe that team in that orange and green has something I need to find out about. Maybe I need to take an official visit there. If I'm a sophomore, I need to start communicating with them, take an official visit, go down to one of their camps, do some of those things. And this is really the showcase game. I don't know about for Florida State, because obviously if they continue to win, they have the Clemson game upcoming, which is their Atlantic Division rival. They obviously have the UF game at the end of the year in November, which is now all of a sudden looking like it's going to be a big game. If they get to the ACC championship game or to a New Year's Six bowl game, they have other big things that are forthcoming. For us, this is like the top of the mountain. So we really, really, really need to have a strong showing so that we can make an impression on national TV, because this is the 8 o'clock game on next week, Saturday night. Even though game day is not coming. This is the 8 o'clock game, national TV in every home in America. So all the 300-something recruits who I anticipate to be there, all the millions of people who hopefully watch this game, because Miami and Florida State is still a rivalry, and I know that we lost, but throw the records out because we always play them tough. But if we play really well, we have a chance to win that game, or we end up winning that game. That can do big things for us right now in recruiting for this 2016 class, but also moving into the future.
So those are huge ramifications for 2016 February and 2017. But if I look at the here and now, I see a roster that's probably the most talented in the Coastal Division. And we see what's happened to Georgia Tech, where they separated themselves last year as the best team. It's muddled again. You have the disadvantage of having to play Florida State and Clemson in the other division, but so does Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech just lost. Who knows who's going to come out of that division, but why can't it be Miami?
I mean, well, why can't it be? The reasons that you saw on Thursday night. The inability to convert third downs, the inability to rise to the occasion, the inability to consistently finish drives with touchdowns. Those kinds of things, those are reasons why it cannot be the University of Miami. Reasons why it could, Brad Kaya, the playmakers on offense, and improved defense, especially with the secondary. And I know that, yes, we gave up points, but a lot of those points had hidden yardage in them. So you had a missed tackle or, a play where you didn't play to the whistle. You gave up a 70-yard or 68-yard punt return, which gave them a short field. Things like that impacted it, but the defense is still improving. The defensive secondary is very, very good. And like you said, we do have the most talent any of the team of the ACC. Sometimes you need players to make plays. It's the Jimmies and Joes more than the X's and O's. I don't know if we're necessarily putting those guys in the position to make plays, but we do have that talent. So you look at a Brad Kai, you look at the playmakers on offense, you look at the defensive backfield especially, you look at just the talent, and those are reasons why it could be. But I gave you 4 reasons why and 4 reasons why not. So, you know, it could be a muddled picture, and I've seen a lot of people tweeting that they're hoping for every single team in the Coastal Division to have a 4-4 record and to have to go to the 9th tiebreaker to determine who the Coastal Division championship will go to. And at this point, like you said, Pittsburgh beat Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech is 0-2 in the ACC. So they're at a supreme disadvantage. If we can find a way to beat those 2 teams, if we can find a way to win some of these ACC games, you know, maybe split Florida State and Clemson, you know, God willing, win them both, it could be Miami. But like I said, it also realistically could not be, or it could be every single team in the Coastal ends up 4-4, and then you got to go to the 9th or 12th tiebreaker to determine who the champion is going to be. So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but hopefully this week, Saturday, we start to get some clarity onto our situation.
So there you go. It's Miami, it's Florida State. It matters, and it matters in a whole bunch of different ways. Cam Underwood from the State of the U to help us break it down. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it.
And thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.